Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. And to start off your week on this Monday, I'm going to give you some good news during what has been a weird, wild, confounding, and at times very frustrating offseason for the San Francisco 49ers and a lot of their fans. Before we take a look at all of that and give you another great show, we're shooting for 160,000 subscribers right here on the program, and that is our next milestone. We're 1,422 people away from reaching that number, so if you want Niner shows every single day that are insightful, informative, entertaining, thought-provoking, where you always have a voice as part of this community, lock us in and hit that subscribe button. So I want to start here. Some breaking news in the National Football League this morning from ESPN's Adam Schefter, and this really sends a ripple effect across the entire NFL for all 32 teams, including the 49ers, because the cornerback market has been reset, and it's been reset in a huge way. Why is that? Well, we saw another record deal. Houston Texans All-Pro cornerback Derek Stingley Jr. has agreed to a 3-year, $90 million extension, including $89 million of guaranteed money. And so, at $30 million base value per year, Stingley is now the highest paid defensive back in NFL history, and the cornerback market has been completely reset. $30 million. Now the going rate for upper echelon corners in the NFL. And so we flip the page here to the highest paid corners per year, and this market has really been reset within the last calendar week. It all started when J.C. Horn of the Carolina Panthers signed his contract extension for $25 million per year. And at that time, he became the highest paid defensive back in the history of the NFL until this morning on this Monday, St. Patrick's Day, when Derek Stingley got that deal, which pays him $30 million in average annual value. You look elsewhere on this list, Jalen Ramsey's making 24 plus. Patrick Surtain, who just won Defensive Player of the Year, that's looking like a great bargain for Denver because he's making $24 million per season. You see Jair Alexander, he signed that deal a few years ago, $21 million. He might be let go by the Green Bay Packers. A.J. Terrell, $20.25. Denzel Ward, $20.1. Marshawn Lattimore, $19.5. Marlon Humphrey, Trayvon Diggs, both at $19.5 and $19.4. And for Stingley, he used to have some epic battles at LSU, matching up against the likes of Jamar Chase, and LSU has put some really good wide receivers in the NFL draft, and they've ended up being excellent players just in recent memory. The likes of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, list goes on and on and on. And with that experience at LSU, Stingley was battle-tested. And he's gone on to have a really good start to his NFL career. No season better than what he did in 2024, helping him earn this contract, where when he was targeted, he only gave up a completion rate of 47.1%. He had 18 pass breakups to go along with 5 interceptions and a quarterback rating when targeted of 51.2. Now, a lot of you watching the show might be thinking about the first several minutes of today's Niners Report, and you're like, Chase, how does this have to do with the San Francisco 49ers? Well, here you go. As we know, with these contract extensions that have happened over the last several off seasons for the Niners, historically, the Niners have waited to sign their homegrown players to new deals. And it's cost them millions and millions of dollars because with them waiting, the market has been reset, and then they have to pay players more money than they would have if they would have signed them earlier in the offseason. The most recent example with Brandon Ayuk. The Niners could have signed him to a contract that would have averaged to be $25 million per season. Brandon Ayuk even said that. And then they waited and waited and waited. Wide receiver market got reset. It blew up in their faces, and they had to sign Ayuk to $30 million per season on that new deal. But what happened during the year last year? It was one of the few bright spots for San Francisco during that 6-11 season. They signed Deommodore Lenoir early last year, before this corner market exploded. And the Niners got ahead of this market and saved themselves some serious money. Derek Stingley is now making $30 million per year, a new record for DBs. Lenoir, as I talked about at the time of the signing, has become a pretty big bargain at $17.7 million per season. And when we were talking about that contract extension at the time, that came in at nearly $90 million total, I had said, this cornerback market, it is going to blossom. It's going to increase. And so when you sign Deommodore Lenoir to this deal now, it's going to save you money in the future. And it looks as though that has happened. In fact, it has. So we were ahead of the game there, and the Niners were ahead of the game. Because Lenoir signed that 5-year, $88.8 million deal. $17.7 million per season is the average annual value. They gave him $38.3 million in guaranteed money. And the Niners could have waited to sign Lenoir to that contract this offseason. He would have been an unrestricted free agent. But by signing him at that juncture of the season, they got ahead of the market. They saved themselves so much money, number one. They didn't allow him to hit free agency, number two. And if he were to hit the market, and if he would have waited things out, and if he saw J.C. Horn get 25 and Derek Stingley get 30, he would have demanded, no doubt about it, $20+ million per year. Hopefully the Niners have learned from the likes of Howie Roseman that you can save money in the future by signing these players to deals early as compared to late, because you can sign these players for 60 to 70% of the market value. And Lenoir at under $18 million per season, it's a steal for San Francisco, because he has been one of the top corners in the game over the last few years. You might look at the overall Pro Football Focus grade at 67.3 and say, well, Chase, he ranked 71st out of 222 corners. But let me ask you this. When have you seen Deommodore Lenoir give up big plays? He doesn't. He's tough, physical, great player development. Story for San Francisco, they took him in the 5th round. That's ended up being a sweet spot. And he has had a knack for making big plays, as evidenced by the pass breakup numbers that we showed you. And how about this? Demo, the last 3 seasons, he has given up 3 touchdowns total on 302 targets. Sometimes you can look at the Pro Football Focus numbers and you can base your arguments off of that, and you can evaluate players on those numbers. But I'm evaluating Deommodore Lenoir with these numbers right here. 302 targets the last 3 years, and he's given up just 3 touchdowns. And last year, no touchdowns given up in coverage on 89 targets. The physicality that he plays with, the swagger that he plays with, he's become a pillar and a foundational piece for this Niners team. And moving forward, this, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Niners should do business. They should change their philosophy here. Instead of waiting and allowing the market to reset, which has been a very recent trend, get ahead of the game here, man. And therefore, you can save some coin. Whereas the Niners have waited, and that's a big reason why they've had to move off of all of these players, and they're having a little bit of an organizational reset all across the board. And we'll see how they handle the whole Brock Purdy contract extension. I agree with how they're handling it now with being very stubborn. Hey, we're not going to pay you $60 million per season. And we're going to have a tough negotiation. And that's probably the best way to go now. So fill in the blank, because what we're about to talk about here, some more good news for the Niners. I took a look at some Super Bowl odds, some NFC West odds going into 2025, and it works off of this question here. Where do you think the Niners rank among the best teams in the NFC? Let me know down in the comment section. Now, last week during free agency, I was telling you about this polo that was on sale, thanks to our friends at Fanatics, and you can find it at chatsports.com/49polo. But if you want to support the show, we have our own shirts that we can give you. Chatsports.com/SF. If you watch our watch parties, you know the deal. San Francisco. It's become a part of the program here. Available in red, available in black. We've sent these shirts all across the world. Get yours today at chatsports.com/SF. So the Super Bowl 60 and NFC West odds for 2025 might surprise you, considering the amount of turnover that we have seen this offseason for San Francisco. And they still have some glaring holes on that roster. But check this out. And with Super Bowl 60 odds, you kind of have to value what the odds makers are saying because they have to make money on these things. The Niners, despite all of the changes in roster turnover, have the 6th best odds to win Super Bowl 60, which, by the way, will be at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. The Eagles coming off that Super Bowl title last year, they lead the way at plus 650. Baltimore Ravens at 7-1. Chiefs at 7-1 as well. Love what the Bills have done this offseason. The Chiefs are vulnerable. It's their year, in my opinion. Plus 750. Lions at plus 950. And while it is a pretty big gap between the Lions and the Niners, 17-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. Those are the 3rd best odds in the NFC, ahead of teams like the Washington Commanders. And in the NFC West, the Niners finished in last place last year. They are currently favorites to win the division at plus 130, ahead of the Rams, who were a few plays away from beating the Eagles. They were the only team in the playoffs last year to give the Eagles a game, plus 175. Seahawks at 6-1, Cardinals at 6-1. I think this division, it's not going to be one of the best divisions in football in 2025. It's going to be one of the most interesting. And so you look at what all of these teams in the NFC have done, team by team. The Niners brought in Luke Farrell, tight end 2, Patrick Taylor, backup running back, special teamer. They traded away Jordan Mason. Richie Grant signed to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. They signed another special teamer. That's been a theme for the Niners this offseason. 1-year contract. Kevin Givens, 1-year deal. Jason Pinnock, versatile DB, 1-year, 2.2. Demarcus Robinson, 2 years, 9.5. Trey Brown at 1 year, 2. Mac Jones at 2 years, up to 11.5. John Weeks, a long snapper, 1 year, 1.42. Kyle Juszczyk signed to a 2-year, $8 million contract. Some weird moves by the Niners. They've let a lot of talent go. The Dre Greenlaw contract details just came out. Instead of paying Jordan Mason and a tight end 2, the Niners could have just brought back Dre Greenlaw. But the odds makers don't really seem to care. As for the Rams, Alaric Jackson, offensive tackle, got an extension. Tutu Atwell, $10 million fully guaranteed. Brought in Devontae Adams. Re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. Poona Ford, $10 million per year at defensive tackle. Coleman Shelton, a 2-year contract. I think the Rams should be the odds-on favorites to win the NFC West and one of the top teams to win the NFC. That's a really good team. Offense adds Devontae Adams. They lose Cooper Kupp. And that defense, which was really good at the end of last year, is younger, but they should be improved. The Seahawks, weird offseason, man. Just like the Niners. I'm not sure where they are right now. But they signed Josh Jobe, 1 year, 2. Jerron Reed, defensive tackle, 3 years, up to $25 million. Ernest Jones, 3 years, 33. Sam Darnold, 3 years, $100.5, 55 guaranteed. I wonder how that impacts what Brock Purdy will get, because that's $30+ million per season. Josh Jones, 1 year, up to 4.75. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 1 year, up to 5.5. DeMarcus Lawrence, 3 years, up to 42, only 18 guaranteed. Josh Ross, 1 year deal. Cody White signed to a 1 year deal, and then they did add Cooper Kupp on Friday. He is from Washington, so he returns back to Washington. He played college football at Eastern Washington, but he's kind of trending toward potentially being cooked. Maybe he'll be rejuvenated with Seattle, but he's going to have to stay healthy. Then you have the Cardinals. Joey Blunt, 2 years, 3.75. Baron Browning, 2 years, 15. Evan Brown, 2 years, 11.5. The big acquisition for them, Josh Sweat, 4 years, 76.4, $41 million guaranteed. Akeem Davis-Gaither, 2 years, 11. Zay Jones, 1 year, 4.4. Jacoby Brissett, 2 years, 12.5. LJ Collier, 1 year, 4. Dalvin Tomlinson, 2 years, 29. Jake Curran, 1 year deal. Semi Fahoku, 1 year deal. Mykal Walker, 1 year, 1.79. The Niners do still have a lot of talent, but they need to add a lot of depth. Offensive line, bottom 10. Defensive line, right now, bottom 5. Still need linebacker help, corner help. Questions at running back. Brock Purdy's going to have to play excellent. Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, Brant Boyer going to have to coach their asses off. Maybe that's what the odds makers are factoring in here. But if you're a Niner fan and you've been feeling down and out about this football team, at least you have the odds makers who think that the Niners still can be Super Bowl contenders. I disagree, but I'm trying to just lighten you all up. Who will win the NFC West? Predict it for me down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching and supporting, and we'll be back later with another show.